All right, everybody, we're going to get started now. We'd like to ask everybody if everybody could please take their seats. Good morning. We're going to begin the program now. Please continue to serve yourselves, but please turn your cell phones to silent mode. My name is Ben Dupuy. I'm a member of the BGR Board of Directors and chair of the Breakfast Briefing Committee. I'm pleased to welcome you to BGR's Jefferson Parish Breakfast Briefing, sponsored by First Horizon Bank at the Sheraton Hotel in Metairie. I work at First Horizon Bank, and pleased to see a bunch of my colleagues are here as well. I want to extend our gratitude to WWNO New Orleans Public Radio, which will rebroadcast this event on Tuesday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. We hope you'll take advantage of the question and answer portion of today's program. It's easy to participate. Follow the instructions at your seats to access the online Q&A forum. The QR code will also appear on the screen during the Q&A session. If you prefer to write your question, please hand it to a BGR staff member and include your name if you want to be identified. Following the program, please share your feedback about this event. There are survey forms at your seats that you can complete and give to us, or you can scan the QR code to take the survey on your phone. These surveys help us to improve our breakfast briefings so that they are as relevant and as informative as possible. Later in the program, we'll show that code on the screen, or you may refer to the instructions. The best way to stay on top of all BGR events and research is to become a member. BGR is a private, nonprofit, independent research organization dedicated to informed policymaking and the effective use of public resources for the improvement of government in the New Orleans metropolitan area. We regularly engage with our members about our public policy work. BGR values this dialogue, and we appreciate our members' support in amplifying BGR's good government recommendations. If you're not currently a member, visit bgr.org and join the ranks of empowered citizens working to improve local government. We also encourage you to follow BGR on social media. And now to introduce our topic this morning is Becky Mowbray, BGR's President and CEO.
Great. Thank you, Ben. I'd like to express our gratitude to First Horizon Bank for its generous sponsorship of the Breakfast Briefing series again this year. Your support from First Horizon allows BGR to make these events free and open to the public. So it is wonderful to see everyone this morning, and it is wonderful to be back in Jefferson Parish. We were last here in 2022, and we're thrilled to be here again. I am Becky Mowbray, and I serve as BGR's President and CEO. BGR produces research reports that identify solutions to some of the most complex challenges facing local government in Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Tammany parishes. Our work enhances government accountabilities. We also help inform voters with our independent, nonpartisan analysis of local ballot propositions. Early this year, we released online property tax dashboards for Jefferson, Orleans, and St. Tammany parishes, which helps residents to understand how their taxes are set and where this money goes. In February, we issued a letter to Governor Jeff Landry urging him to keep Louisiana's Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority as an independent, separate agency. This spring, we've also been using our extensive research on the Sewerage and Water Board to advocate for change in this flawed governance structure. And most recently, we wrote a letter to the New Orleans City Council summarizing BGR's guidance on economic development incentives, advice which is relevant for any parish. BGR's breakfast briefings enhance our mission by allowing citizens to hear directly from government officials and experts on public policy issues vital to the New Orleans area. This is the second of 4 breakfast briefings that we will hold this year, and we will post a video replay of this event on our website at bgr.org. Today's topic will focus on improving the quality of life in Jefferson Parish by addressing and upgrading its aging infrastructure. Jefferson Parish developed heavily during the second half of the 20th century, which means that its infrastructure is experiencing more and more challenges. One recent example was a massive water main break on Jefferson Highway that took the East Bank Water Treatment Plant offline and required a boil water advisory. As this example demonstrates, parish and municipal governments across Jefferson must continuously keep up with deterioration of key assets, from streets to drainage canals to water and sewer lines. And Mother Nature is not helping with this. BGR's 2022 breakfast briefing highlighted how more intense storms are affecting the parish. During Hurricane Ida, the parish experienced significant issues with sewer lift stations, for example. And last year's saltwater wedge traveling up the Mississippi River required the parish to construct emergency water intake lines along the riverbank. The price tag for core infrastructure is also rising. Parish residents and businesses have renewed property taxes for drainage, water, and sewer in recent years, as well as a sales tax that supports roads and other infrastructure. And the parish has increased water and sewer user rates to help fund long-term capital improvements and other needs. Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Sheng kicked off 2024 with an ambitious set of goals to address the parish's declining infrastructure. Parish government has allocated significant funds from taxpayers and other sources to capital improvements for drainage, streets, and water and sewer systems. Amid these involved extensive projects, President Lee Sheng's long-term goal is clear, and that is to continue to focus on parish growth and to ensure that the parish provides its residents and businesses with the best services. Here today to discuss these developments are Parish President Cynthia Lee Sheng and Mark Drews, the Director of the Department of Public Works. Cynthia Lee Sheng was sworn into office as the first female president of Jefferson Parish in 2020. Prior to this role, she served as councilwoman at large for Division B in 2015 and as councilwoman for District 5 since 2009. Parish President Lee Sheng has always had an interest in public service and has led the parish through unprecedented times, including the COVID pandemic in 2020, Hurricane Ida in 2021, and the Mississippi saltwater wedge issue last year. Her passion for efficiency and new ideas are helping to take Jefferson Parish to the next level of parish government. Mark Drews has served as the parish's Director of Public Works since 2020 and oversees 8 departments and 1,200 employees. As a licensed professional engineer for 35 years, Mark has worked as a consultant for 19 of those years, designing roads and bridges before joining parish government as the Chief Engineer of Roads and Bridges in 2001. 4 years later, he became director of the parish's engineering department and served in that capacity until undertaking his current role. Mark has faced the parish's infrastructure challenges head-on, and Jefferson Parish is fortunate to have a leader of Mark's experience and caliber leading the charge of bringing these new projects to fruition. At the conclusion of today's presentation, I will be moderating a Q&A session. I'm sure there will be many questions after this thought-provoking discussion. And as Ben mentioned, you can access the Q&A form using the QR code and the instructions at your seat, or you can fill out the comment card and hand it to a BGR staff member who will bring it up at the end of this session. And I would like to note that the views expressed in this program are those of our speakers. Please join me in welcoming Parish President Cynthia Lee Sheng and Mark Drews. Thank you.
It's on? It's on now? Can you hear me? Okay. Doesn't sound like it's on from up here, does it? Okay. It's not on? It really doesn't sound like it's on to me. Take a dip, but- better? Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you. Becky, thank you so much for the incredible introduction, and thank you for being here in Jefferson Parish. I'm just going to kick this off. The real star of the show is Mark Drews, but I'll just start off with a little thing. I was, as Becky mentioned, I was on the council since 2009, and then when I was able to become parish president, this would have been the first thing I would have tackled very early on, but for that little thing called COVID that disrupted us and, took our attention away. So we were able to finally tackle this in 2021, and I would say, Mark, we probably worked on this a good portion of the year, a good 8-9 months, right? Just our internal meetings, and then developing a PowerPoint deck, and then going out to the community and getting support, because as you can imagine, no council wants to really vote on service charge increases. No politician like myself wants to really advocate for that. It's not politically, popular to do, but it's something that was needed for a long time. And truth be told, when I came over to the parish president side, you can see the aging system. Nothing had happened yet, but we knew the system was very old. But, I'm kind of a data person. The numbers just spoke for themselves. I mean, when you look at the two kind of budgets we have an operating budget that does all the day-to-day activities. It's where your salaries come from and your maintenance. And then you have a capital budget, which is more like your new projects, right? So if you look at the budget just from those two perspectives, in good times, you want to have overage in your operating budget to bring more projects to your capital project. That's the ideal situation we'd all like to be in. We were so upside down that we were using our capital budget to feed the operating side. So that is just the worst case scenario to be in. No system can live for long like that. So we were treading water in both of those systems, and it really, for me, it was just my job to kind of scream from the mountaintops and say, we have got to do something different because this is not long. I just try to bring it down to the simplest thing, because these can be complicated issues, but it really is the simplest issue if you just liken it to the roof on your house. The roof on your house has got like a 20-year life cycle. This is not how you would manage your finances or your biggest asset, your house. You're not going to wait till the end of that life cycle. Keep that roof on for as long as you can, and then a big rain event, and now your roof's leaking, and then you say, oh, I got to replace my roof. And now you have sheetrock to replace, and you have water that's in your air conditioning system. Now you got a mold problem. So had you been a little bit more proactive and replaced that roof at year 15, 18 instead of year 20, the cost would have been, much, much less. We saw that happening right when we were going through, we were on the road, so to speak, with our tour for this, and you will recall right outside of East Bank Regional Library, a sewer main broke. Well, if you didn't see it, it would look like a Las Vegas fountain outside the Bellagio. Like, it was huge. And guys, it was sewer water. It looked clear, but that was sewer, okay? So, and people jokingly say, y'all did that on purpose. It was perfect timing though, Mark, really. If you had somebody do that, it was just great work. But that was at 9 times the amount to fix it. We waited for it to break. It broke. We had to do it on an emergency basis. And what should have been a $200,000 easy pipe replacement was $1.9 million on an emergency basis. So it was the perfect time for something for us to show, this is what's going to happen. Stuff's going to start breaking. Of course, you all recall we were all disrupted in January. Again, something broke, and it was the biggest water break we had. Luckily, it was easy for me to do media because I was like, we have a plan. We knew stuff was going to start breaking. We just needed another 5 years to get to fixing that. But stuff was going to start breaking, and hopefully we get through without more breaks. We can have an ambitious proposal to do a lot of different things. Before I turn it over to Mark, and really his leadership in terms of all the departments, I think it just speaks to the biggest compliment is he was asked to serve on the New Orleans Sewage and Water Board Task Force to look at that. I think that's a big compliment to him. He is critical to us. You saw him with IDA on all our systems. So, obviously he led the way in developing all the data we needed. But we really want to personally thank BGR. They touched on this in a report in 2013 in one of their reports saying Jefferson Parish should increase user fees to deal with this issue. Unfortunately, it took us until 2021 to deal with it, but they doubled down in their 2021 report when you all recommended the approval of the existing millage, but reiterated again, Jefferson Parish should increase their user fees. And that helps so much on a political front, because you're an independent organization, you have smart people looking at it, and I can pull up the report and say, BGR says we should do it. It really helps our credibility a lot for that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark, and he can get down to the specifics of what I would say is the biggest project we did in the last term. I'm in my second term, but in the last term for the last council, this is by far the biggest accomplishment that we've been able to do, and we will continue doing it for the next 20 years, right, Mark? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to go beyond 20 years, actually.
Yeah.
So you can see in 2021, just to reiterate what we said, Jefferson Parish had some of the lowest sewer and water rates in the country, not just, we already had the lowest in the state. You can see the red line, that was our expenses exceeding the light blue line, which was our revenue. So basically water was on its way to going broke. You can see on the other side, that's the fund balance in yellow for sewer that's going down because we're using that fund balance to, to handle our operating and maintenance budgets. You can see just a comparison. Orleans, similar size, same bad soil conditions. Their rates were about 4 times ours in water, almost 7 times in sewer. And then we look at Baton Rouge, and they were over 2.5 times water, 4 times sewer, but they don't have the soil conditions that New Orleans and Jefferson Parish have to deal with. So we decided coming out of COVID, the best thing was a gradual 20-year rate increase. We didn't want to just quadruple our rates coming out of COVID so that our business and residents would have a chance to gradually handle the rate increases. Below, it's hard to see, but basically an average customer uses 6,200 gallons a month. That for the first 10 years, that monthly rate that they pay would go up. Basically, it was around $2.90, plus we kept the inflation factor on it. That would happen for the first 10 years, then it would drop down to under $1 increase per month each year. For the next 10, sewer was very similar. It was $3.83. Your bill would go up for a month for that first year, then another $3.83 the next year. It would drop after the 10 years for the next 10 years down to $1.82. So what that did was it allowed us to bond money for some immediate needs that we needed, $192 million for water, $100 million for sewer, but more importantly, finally have a pipe replacement program. Instead of just patching pipes, we literally replaced the worst pipes, basically $800 million for each system over the next 20 years. So where are we today, okay? Water, okay? Because of that bonding capacity, the first thing you do with your water is you have to pump the water from the river into our plant. We've already rehabilitated the Blue House primary suction station for a cost of $7.5 million. Under design is our secondary lift station for $8 million. We should be able to do that, hopefully start that next year. It's at 60% final design. After you take the water in, you need to test the water. So we're in the process right now. It's under construction, a $12.5 million new water testing lab. Fortunately, we're one of the few municipalities or parishes in the state that can actually test their water. So we test it as it comes in, we test it as it goes out. Here's the big one. We need a new treatment plant. P1 and P2 on the right, you can see. One was built in 31, one in 55. They're still in operation today. They're actually about 12 million gallons per day. P3 all the way on the left, built in 69, has about 40 million gallons per day capacity. So we want to build P4 with 40 million gallons a day capacity, and we can expand it to 60 so we can finally decommission P1 and P2 and improve our plant operations. Next thing, the water goes out into your distribution system. This is what we're looking at, about 200 leaks reported per week that we need to address. So it's time we need to start replacing our lines so we can reduce that volume. So where are we? What we've done is we have 9 years of that 20-year program under design right now, roughly about $225 million of that $800 million. And the reason we did this is obviously when you have a rate increase, it builds up gradually over time. So what we wanted to do is we had to wait first, once the rates were increased, then I can get bond money after the rates were approved. Then I have to wait till the bond money's in. Then I can select engineers. Then I can begin that design process. So we're going to be 3 years into the program before I have a project out there. So going 9 years will give me the flexibility as the money comes in. I can do those projects, but I'll also have projects that if I have a conflict with another project, I can hold that project back and just move to the next one. We should have the first projects out for bid by the end of this year, and we anticipate by the end of 2025 we should have at least 10 projects either under construction or out for bid. So that was the priority for our large mains. And if I just went by priority, those would be the only ones we did, but we realized we have some neighborhoods that are in bad shape, so we had a secondary smaller pipe priority for our worst subdivision areas. So we've actually put under design the first 10 years of that priority program, which is about $20 million. Water towers, we're taking that bonded money. We have 11 water towers. Every 15 years, you should rehabilitate them. You need to go inside, clean them up, because that's a potable water system, seal them, and then paint them on the outside and do any structural modifications. You can see that we've already completed 3 with 2 under construction, the rest out for bid. We've obviously already done the 2 largest ones, which are on the East Bank at I-10 and Causeway and David and Veterans. Next thing is that water actually gets to the meters. We have antiquated meters where you have to mechanically read them, so we have a program now to replace all of those meters. Will be funded by that bond money. Actually, on April 18th, we're going to take the proposals for that system, hopefully have someone under contract by July or August. We anticipate having all 160,000 meters replaced in 3.5 to 4 years. And what that does is now as a customer, you can have an app, you can manage your flow, you can see how your flow is. If it jumps up, you'll know that you have a leak and you can address it. Moving on to sewer. Sewer, again, $800 million 20-year pipe replacement because we have infiltration in our system on the private side, the public side, because you have open joints because your pipes are 60 years old, or you have cracks in them. So you can see when we have a rain event, what happens, I'm pumping excess water from a lift station to another lift station that can't handle it. I end up with sewer water spilling out into the street. And there's that famous geyser that the parish president was talking about. Of course, it was 30 feet when the first day into the air, but it was a Price Brothers pipe, 66-inch reinforced concrete. They don't make it anymore. It's obsolete. So guess what? Only to fix it, I had to cut a piece out, but we had to fabricate special fittings to attach a steel pipe to it. So what happens for that, that's a 2-month process. So well, we did a temporary patch the road. I have another storm event, it blows it out again. I had to do a second patch on the pipe on the road. So then I had to do the final. So that's what happens. You spend about $1.5 million on a repair that could have been $200,000 if I had a high-density plastic pipe in that place. So with that said, you can see this is actually our regional force main that goes from north of I-10 Helios, where we used to have our treatment plant, all the way to Elmwood, where we have the only East Bank treatment plant. So we're in the process of looking at the history of that line so we can identify the priority sections that we need to replace under this program, pipe replacement program. But also what we're doing, and this is already kicked off, again, similar to water, we went 8 years out. What we're doing, we hired someone that actually started in March. What their job is to do is the gravity systems all feed to a sewer lift station. We know which ones are the worst, which ones are taking the most I&I by how much they pump during the rain event. So what they're going to do is smoke test the lines. They're going to clean and video the lines. They'll look at the manholes, and they'll generate a report. That report will be taken by an engineer who will then say, okay, I need to replace these lines. I need to line these lines. These lines are okay. I need to do this with the manhole, put a bid package out, and we can actually start upgrading our system. And so as those reports come in, we should have the money to actually start doing the work. So we anticipate we'll be getting some reports, within the next couple of months. And over a 2-year period, they should be able to handle all of these lift stations, and we'll start seriously addressing our I&I issues. We already had $15 million in bond funding, so we started the process already. We went and looked at 1,500 manholes in 2023. Most of them needed to be sealed. We've already done it, and we spent $4 million to do that. Similarly, we had 6 lift stations. We already knew we needed to line the pipes. We've already done that at a cost of $11 million. We just finished that in 2023 March of this year, 2024. Lift stations. When Ida hit, power out over. I have 515 lift stations. Only 4 of them work because only 4 of them had backup generators, 4 of our larger ones. So the goal was to get 15 of our larger regional lift stations with backup generators. We're using bond money to do that. We've already completed the one at the top. One's under construction. The rest are under design. But hopefully by the end of 2026, I'll have 15 more regional lift stations that can pump during a storm, and we can better manage a system without power by, more wisely using portable pumps and portable generators at our smaller lift stations. This is SCADA. We've added SCADA to 150 sewer lift stations, so we now have 348 of 530. It's invaluable. You can see at the bottom, that straight line is dry weather flow. When it rains, it jumps up, and it shouldn't jump up, but that tells me that that lift station has a gravity system that has issues. SCADA can also be used on your pumps to say, is the pump working, or as much as, hey, it's vibrating, so I need to go repair that pump now before I lose that pump. Parish-wide, this was the old sewer bond. I don't say it's not that old. It was 2017. You can see we were able to bond $131 million in funds and leverage that with $34 million. The status on that, we've completed 82 of those projects, 20 either under construction or in the bid phase out of 122, so only 20 left actually to get out into the workforce. We've spent $141 million of the $165 million program. Primarily, it was lift station. I have to upgrade a lot of lift stations, 515 over time, so we finished 65 of the 81 already. And then also the rest of the money is more spent on our treatment plants. We built a new one in Lafitte, Rosethorn, because we had issues that LDQ had cited us for that. And then the other 3 in West Bank and the one at Elmwood, we've been doing major renovations to those with the 2017 sewer bond. Road bond, as we go to streets, 2017 road bond program. We bonded $268 million. You can see that we've done 37 of the 69 projects has been completed, with 4 under construction, 1 in bidding, and 27 left to go, so we're making very good progress on that. Road bond was more selected for transformative projects. Here's an example of Okay, you're talking about the highest retail sales tax generator in the parish, not only also the gateway to Fat City. So we wanted to improve the street from a standpoint it floods, so we put subsurface drainage, upsize it the entire length, but we also wanted to make this a viable economic corridor for the future, so we did the paving, we put new decorative lighting, we also made it more walkable by putting 8-foot wide concrete paver sidewalks. On the West Bank, here's an example. Oakwood, Smart Grove, Terrytown is one of the oldest neighborhoods on the West Bank. They're trying to improve the housing stock, draw young people in, so we said, here's a chance where we can actually put a bike network for the younger people, and we can spruce up the area around the Oakwood Mall. So you can see it's a number of streets that all tie together. You have homes, if I can work this thing, if it works. Let's see. Here's Holmes Boulevard. We can put a bike path down here, down Wright, down Hector, down Whitney, tie it to the existing one at the West Bank Expressway, make a mini network. Here's kind of where we are. Here's homes that had intermittent shoulders. We said, let's take that shoulder, make it a bike path, and protect it. We put in decorative lighting, and that will spur development on homes. Here's Hector. This is what it looked like before and after. We have the new pervious concrete 12-foot wide walk-in / bike path, and we put some pervious concrete parking for people to access it. Here we go down Whitney. We put the bike path down the middle. Next step will be ringing Oakwood Mall with new sidewalks. David Drive, you can see here, it's all concrete. It's not the safest. You used to just have a stripe separating opposing traffic. You want to make a left turn, you have to stop in that lane, and you can get rear-ended. We were able to widen it out, put some grass medians in with some left/U-turns to protect it. Again, another important economic corridor for the parish, and of course, we put in upsized drainage and a new water line. Here, smaller project, but very transformative. You can see a substandard, less than 20-foot wide road, no sidewalks, steep roadside ditches. People had to walk in the street. So we were able to go in, enclose the pipes, widen the road to 24 feet, and give them a sidewalk so that they could move up and down. Another West Bank project in Ames, we just rehabilitated an entire residential stretch, about 1.7 miles. And what we did was made it walkable, made sure that all the handicap ramps were accessible to improve the quality of life. Sometimes you just have to do projects that you don't see. This is the causeway on the right. That's the overpass, causeway over Airline. We had to go underneath, and we have steel rockers that are beginning to fail. We had to replace those rockers. We also did some joint work on the top, coated the slab where the steel was showing. And that's the first phase. That's the part that goes up and over the traffic circle. We'll still have to come back and do the traffic circle. Bayou Signette, we have a high-rise over it on the Palco. We actually had a span that actually slid off the rockers, and we had, of course, as emergency, shut the bridge down, and it cost a small fortune to repair that span, so we went in and rehabbed the rest of the bridge. Here's we have several bike projects in the road bond, but these were two projects that we knew that was the only way we'd ever afford them. We're trying to connect the lake to the river. So under design, we have an overpass at Veterans, a bike overpass, and we have one at Airline, and over the tracks that are next to Airline Drive, so that we can connect those two really nice amenities in the parish. And similar on the West Bank, we want to go down Destrehan Avenue with an independent path. We want to try to keep the bikes off of the road and connect the Mississippi River to Park Day for Me. So you can see Destrehan, which is in red there, ties to Leo Kerner. We actually just completed the bike path from Leo Kerner, that's from Barataria to Park Day for Me. So these are projects that are still to be done in road bond, some large projects. You can see under construction West Battery, we're rehabbing it from the Soniac Canal to Roosevelt. We're doing a piece of northbound transcontinental, but you can see some other main projects. We're going to widen southbound Manhattan from West Bank Expressway to Gretna. We already did northbound before, but that's the most congested road on the West Bank. We're also going to widen Causeway, the last project, from 4 to 6 lanes between the foot of the bridge as it comes over Airline all the way to West Napoleon, where we actually already have the 6 lanes. We also have some regional projects still on the book. We're working with the RPC in the state to make a connection from Earhart down Dakin to Jefferson Highway. This will help Oshner. It'll give them another access point. We've had, unfortunately, put Causeway and Earhart on hold. The reason, in 2018, it was estimated at $33 million. In 2023, we bid it with the state, $92 million, and we just didn't have the funds because this is only for Phase 1A, the orange, which is none of the ramps. So we're going to have to look for some federal funding, but we're still going to pursue that project. We also, on the West Bank, want to take the rail out of Gretna and off of Belle Chase Highway and move it to Peters Road, which would be wonderful for the town of Gretna. We're just getting ready to start 30% preliminary plans, and we're working with the railroads on that. Another project is to extend Peters Road all the way down to LA 23 in Plaquemine. The green was actually done already. That's the ag grade in Plaquemine. Up top where you see the light blue, all the right-of-ways acquired. That'll be the next phase, the ag grade in Jefferson Parish, and we're trying to cobble the funds together for the bridge over the Intracoastal Waterway. Lapalco, we're designing a twin bridge. Lapalco Bridge is 4 lanes. It's 6 lanes on either side, so we're trying to get a twin bridge. We just want to get this in shovel-ready position so that we can go after federal funds. Turn into drainage. I don't have a bond project in drainage, but we're always doing drainage. So I'm going to show you 3 projects that are under construction. This is Mounds, $32 million project, but you can see the big red area and the blue area. That's all the impact that project will improve that drainage south of Jefferson Highway and north of Jefferson Highway. The red 2 sections have been completed. We're going out for bid with the last section of Mounds. And all of that water then will be more efficiently brought to the existing pump to the river facility. Here on Veterans, we're building pumps right now on the south and north side to alleviate flooding on Lake Avenue and the streets. You can see the area that it's bounded to because this is the high point. All this water right by the 17th Street Canal has to go all the way down to the Bonneville Canal and out. So we have some flooding issues there that we can resolve with these pump stations that'll go directly into that 17th Street Canal. Finally, we have a similar major drainage project in a subdivision that historically floods on the West Bank. You can see we've completed most of the phases in that yellowish color. We just have the last $8 million phase to do. We've upsized the drainage there so that we can alleviate all the flooding in this area around Avenue D. And with that said, it kind of gives you an overview of where we are today, what we've recently done with our bond and water rate money, and where we're going in the future. And with that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take them. Oops.
Thanks so much for that outstanding presentation. It was terrific. In keeping with BGR's tradition, we have questions from the audience. And to submit a question, please use your phone to scan the QR code on the screen or the printed instructions. This will take you to the online form at bgr.org/QA, where you can type your question. And please feel free to include your name if you'd like to be recognized. I will start with a terrific and timely question from the audience. What lessons did you learn from the monsoon last week and the massive flooding across the parish? And how can citizens get involved to help prevent flooding?
Take it.
Well,
finish.
I'll let Mark go more on the technical. The lesson I learned is the parish needs more high water vehicles. So, you know, we do have a lot of vehicles, but when you have potential flooding across this whole entire parish, just an example, we opened a shelter. This is just getting into the details, but you know, you just never know what kind of weather event you're gonna have. The forecasts were about wind, right? And so we do have people who live in trailers still, so we always wanna open a shelter. Well, we picked a shelter that was safe for wind. Would not have been the shelter we would have picked if it was a flooding event. So, I mean, these are just kind of the lessons learned, but we have Sarah Babcock who runs the shelters for us. We rely on her to get to the shelter. Well, we didn't have a high water vehicle for her to get there. So, I mean, these are just some of the little operational lessons learned, but Mark can go over the details. And of course, I was worried about the high level of canals on this event in particular. That is the deadly situation. I was just talking about it this morning. If you've never been in a flooded car, I have. It doesn't take a lot to get your car to flood. It doesn't take a lot of water to all of a sudden have water appear in your car. Your feet are getting wet, it's rising. And when you have that situation next to an overflowed canal where you lose your visibility of where the road is and the canal is, where your car almost becomes a boat, you have no control. Now your car's over the canal, now you have a deadly situation. So that was preliminary, that was my big concern that day. You know, cars are gonna be in different places, stranded just because they went in too high of water, but my concern that day was the deadly issue with the high canals that we could have possibly seen. And I'll let Mark get into more of the details.
The system worked fairly well. We had that day 7 reports of structure flooding, which is our main concern. We've been able to investigate 5 of those. 4 of them confirmed there was actually no structure flooding. 1 was a basement that actually took on water, and we're investigating the other 2. But what we learned is, again, we're watching the storm, the SCADA, at all times. We saw that, for instance, in the Bonneville Canal. The Bonneville Canal was actually very low at the pump station, but we had some unusually high canal levels. So what that tells us is we need to get into the crossings that we have, say, like at Oak Lawn, and we have another one at Bonneville, and see, hey, is there potential that maybe those underground pipes, which is basically like a bridge structure, if they're clogged. We had some unusual flooding on David Drive, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna video those lines. So there's always an after action that, hey, we can see where we struggled with our drainage, and then we can check those routes out to see, hey, is there an obstruction that we're missing? So we're in that mode right now.
Wonderful. How do you evaluate infrastructure investments as you consider whether to go ahead with them?
Again, when we're looking at the pipe replacement programs, what we did was we had a study done, and we prioritized them by age of pipe, number of breaks of pipes, type of pipes, and of course, how many residents are basically served with those. So we didn't go in blind. We basically, you know, set up that priority system, and we've stuck to it. So what you see when I said we designed that first 9 years, for example, for the water, those are the ones that have the greatest potential to cause us problems and to break. So that's how we evaluate, you know, most things that we do. We try to see what we need to replace first. Similar with the sewer, like I said, we have I&I studies, so we use those studies to tell us what are our worst gravity systems. So those are the systems we don't know exactly what we need to fix, but those are the ones we first are gonna go in, clean, etc., find out what we need to do and address them.
Great. Is Jefferson Parish currently charging enough between rates and property taxes to adequately maintain its infrastructure?
Yes, we are. Because look, and again, we worked when we were looking at this rate increase. We worked with our finance office. We worked with our PIO. It was a total team effort, okay, with the administration and the council. But what we looked at was what are our current operating costs. And when we projected out 20 years, we assumed those costs, operating maintenance, would go up 5% per year. We wanted to be conservative to make sure that, you know, as we raise these rates and we're assuming we're going to, you know, outstrip our maintenance costs, okay, so that we can generate enough for our capital that we weren't underestimating those costs. And I can tell you they're not likely to change but to go up, because this is going to replace 20% of my system. I have 80% of my system 20 years from now that will be 20 years older. So the rate increase was designed so that in 20 years we're still generating that amount of construction dollars so we can continue this process.
Okay. The shattered Jefferson Parish water main under Jefferson Highway was attributed in part to summer drought and recent freezes that caused the aged pipe to burst. As the weather becomes more extreme and unpredictable due to climate change, how do you expect it to impact infrastructure maintenance and integrity? And to what degree is there redundancy in your plans, models, and budgeting to account for unpredictable events?
Again, you'll see when we were doing a little spreadsheet, we put in for water, say $2 million a year for just emergency things that we're not expecting to do, okay? So that's kind of built into the system. I do anticipate, you know, as I said, that the number of breaks is not going to decelerate over time because of the age of the system, and we're only able to get to a certain percentage of it. So we factored that in when we were looking at this rate increase so that we could keep up with the, you know, the current level of breaks and actually go a little bit beyond that.
Okay.
I'd like to add on that since you brought it up, and I think this is something that's very critical. When I go to emergency management conferences, we talk about this a lot, and I feel like I can be the poster child for it with our area. You brought it up, the extreme weather we've been facing is really going to cause a lot of issues for us. Number one, just from fighting a storm, you know, we could just see the rapid intensification of these storms and the quickness of the speed at which they're coming. It's just changing the whole way of how we prepare for storms. You know, with Ida, it was too late for us to call for an evacuation. Well, there were storms last year that made Ida look like we had all the time in the world. These weather patterns are changing drastically, just from a storm perspective. The drought last year, we had 41 days last year where we had record-breaking heat, since we've been keeping track of it since the 1940s. Well, what does that mean? Well, what it meant was a couple of things. We had swamp fires, which we didn't have before. Swamp fires caused super fog, which we weren't talking about super fog before, which caused a fatality on the road. It caused the saltwater intrusion because of the drought and the lack of rain in the northern states coming down. It caused saltwater intrusion, and it caused the pipe to break in January. I mean, all of that can be brought back to these extreme weather patterns we're seeing. And, you know, I get with parish presidents of Louisiana, I meet with them. What other things are we not thinking of that this extreme weather is going to bring to us? Because we didn't have a plan for saltwater intrusion. I had to learn all about it. I never heard of that before. So once you're used to being in a certain pattern of weather and you start getting quickly outside of that, there are a lot of unknowns that we have, and we're in a very uncertain situation with it.
Okay. Picking up on the saltwater wedge, we have several questions on that subject. When the saltwater wedge threatened the water supply last year, what, if anything, did it reveal about your emergency planning and response capabilities? And have you made any protocol changes as a result?
I'm going to let Mark, but I'm going to prep this up because Mark's team, I'm going to say it, Mark, the state was wonderful, the federal government was wonderful, and the solutions they had would not work for Jefferson Parish. They were barging in water, which was a great solution for the smaller parishes, but once you got to our West Bank intake and then coming around the bend to the East Bank intake, the amount of volume that we needed to pump water to our citizens was just off the chart compared to where we were in Plaquemines Parish and throughout. I came back from a meeting where they were talking about barging and all of that, and I looked at Mark and I said, you better figure something out because that's not our solution. And I left him alone for quite a few days. I was not hovering over his shoulder. I left him alone. And to his credit and his team's credit, they figured it out. So I want him to be in the textbooks one day. His team deserves to be in the textbook, the engineering books, because they figured it out. And in the meantime, I want to thank our business community. We were having meetings, getting all the grocery stores, and then we realized it's hardware stores and Office Depots and dollar stores that sell water, and getting our business community flex so quickly. And I said, order your water. We might have the whole greater New Orleans area out of water, and I want a show of water at the door to calm everybody down, because it's frightening to think, I mean, we've been through enough emotionally, right? And they responded so quickly, and we were in a bad situation, but it just changed the whole nature of things when people could go into their local grocery store and see like a ton of water at the door. So that was the business community responding. But Mark, to his credit, and his team, he led that effort. He knew he had to buy stuff off the shelf. He knew to do it quickly. It was amazing what he did. Thank goodness we didn't have to use it, but he would have saved the day, he and his team. So I'll Mark.
Look, it's all about teamwork. I know the day after we were first informed we had an issue, the parish president had to meet with the executive staff so we could go, okay, what are the problems? What do we need to solve? So then the next day, I did the same thing with my public works director. I'm a structural engineer, so this was out of my wheelhouse. So the credit actually goes to my staff. Fortunately for me, my drainage director, the young guy, he's a pump expert, okay, and that's what he does. He does pump curves, he can run the pump stations, he can design pump stations. I had Mitch Terrio. He was the former water and drainage director for about 15 years. He's been down in Lafitte doing temporary pumping when Lafitte is flooded on numerous occasions. Been through Katrina, through Ida, etc. So those two actually came up with the pumps system that we ended up using, because when they were in Ida, okay, and they were pumping out Lafitte to get to their drainage pump station, the two of them were actually down there, and our pumps are just dribbling the water over the berm. They called GOSEP. GOSEP tells them, okay, you need pumps, try this coastal equipment. Well, they bring those pumps down, they're shooting the water halfway out into the bayou. So they said, these are the perfect pumps. We've seen them in action. So they called coastal equipment to set up what we ended up doing, a flexible pipe system with pumps. But it's that experience on my staff and that teamwork. I had Angela DeSoto. She's my engineering director. She's ex-Corps. She's managed large projects for the Corps. So permitting was an issue. So she knows all the Corps people. She's running that through. But it was beyond just us. It was the whole region. We literally we had a meeting at our office, and the Sewage and Water Board was there with the two levee districts, the west and the east, along with the Corps, all putting our heads together. Okay, what can we do? How do we work this problem? So it was beyond just my team. It was also outside. Everyone was cooperative. Everyone worked together to try to address this problem.
Okay. We have several questions about green infrastructure. I'll do a couple of them together. How is the parish learning about and incorporating nature-based solutions to address flooding problems? And the more successful you are with pipes and pumps in your drainage system, the more subsidence you are likely to get. How are you working to incorporate green infrastructure into your new drainage projects to mitigate subsidence while also mitigating flooding?
I'll just generally talk about it. I mean, I became a believer about this probably in 2016, where I had to learn about it and just learn that this cycle of, paving over everything and pumping it was just, a vicious cycle we were in. We do bring it in. I mean, some of the projects here, Mark was talking about some of the pavement. We do bring it in. We've incorporated it into a lot of projects, but this is something that I see from our economic. I've always been a believer that we can sell this. Our own companies should be the ones producing this. We can live. The country sees us with Katrina, sees us with Ida. They understand that we can tell the story, and we should really be on the cutting edge of developing these products. Where we are now, and I think, the products, the difficulty in construction is the products are more expensive, so it's hard to get people to, embrace this, because it is going to add price to your projects. It's a long-term goal that you need to have. But we try to incorporate, we have to be the model, and we try to incorporate it into a lot of what we do. Mark, do you want to?
Look, it's like anything. You have to look at how well it's going to work and how much it costs to maintain. Basically, what we found out is over 80% of the parish is covered with impermeable clay soil. So you can't just put pervious concrete down and think that that's going to solve your problem. So what we did is, for example, on Holmes Boulevard, we had that intermittent shoulder. We made that shoulder complete to make it a bike lane, but we put pervious concrete so we could then store that water. But that area is impervious, but I wasn't as worried there because I had to, because the shoulder wasn't there, I had to put a base course down. So we put a base course down that could accept that water, but I had to put perforated pipe in it to slowly drain it out so it wouldn't be filled for the next rain. So in that case, it made sense to spend the extra money because I was going to have to build a base anyway. We did the same thing on Hector. So you have to be careful that what you do is actually cost effective. But again, we have 2 large ones on the East Bank already where we store water. We pump water into Pontiff, again, because if we didn't pump water in Pontiff, we would probably had worse flooding in Old Metairie. But we also just recently, we upgraded a pump from the Hoey's that pumps into the Earhart Causeway, where we have a big open area. We were already putting some water there, but we increased that volume. So the problem with the East Bank is there's only a few locations where we have enough area where we can store water like that. Now the West Bank, as we develop out, we have more opportunity to store water. So we're always looking for ways to do it. We just have to be efficient in what we do and make sure that whatever we put in there can be maintained, and has that benefit cost ratio.
And then there's also a beautification project. We've been talking about canals, and we've talked as a community about covering canals, but that's kind of adding to that whole more pavement issue. So we're really doing a pilot project now. Mark in Parkways and Streets is helping us, right, with
Yes.
Trying to kind of camouflage canals. Just like I remember driving on Veterans, like across from Trader Joe's, and the trees were in full bloom, and you couldn't even see there was a canal behind it. And I'm like, this is how we need to do this. We just need to cover it with trees and greenery and landscaping, and it's so much cheaper, it's so much better, and certainly we're picking plants that store water, but be looking out for that project. We're starting on Clearview,
Just west of
going
Clearview.
toward, just west of Clearview, going toward Kenner, but that's Mark's team has got 12 to 15 projects that we're looking to do, so we'll be making big announcements about that soon,
Right.
too.
The first one, that was on veterans, by
Yeah.
the way, that first one.
Good. That's a good lead into another audience question. Are there plans to address issues that were raised in the recent Times-Picayune Advocate article about one of the major barriers to Jefferson Parish attracting economic development being infrastructure and the lack of integration of livable business areas with residential areas and public spaces? The example cited of good development was the Severn Avenue project. Are more similar initiatives planned?
Well, look, what we're dealing with is how our community formed. When we formed, I liken it when my parents built their house back in 1960s. We built in a way where all the residents were in one area. You had to get in your car and then you went to Schwegmann's, right? We just kept the residents and the commercial separate from one another. And now, and especially the younger generation, they want walkability. They want a store right by them. They want this whole town center concept. You just can't flip it. I mean, and we are what we are. We're built out already. The zoning code is what it is, and we look for new areas where we can do that. But I get jealous when I travel and see how new communities are built because they built it for the desires of today. Well, we were built for the desires of that day in the 1960s is what we're built. So we don't have land to expand to, so we're at a disadvantage there. So we're really forced to kind of re-looking at certain areas and doing it where we can and rebuilding where we can. But, who would have taken let's do vehicular traffic right next to an open body of water? Like, we never would have set up that way. It's just how we developed over time. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I think you could look to Metairie Road. I know the planning department, that's what they look at, okay? The planning department wanted Metairie Road to be a little more high-density mix of business and, residential, and you can see the transformation that's going on Metairie Road. You look to what I was talking about, the Oakwood Smart Growth Plan. to try to revitalize Terrytown. So the parish is looking at that. I know there's a study on the around Lafreniere Park, similar study to try to revitalize that area. But again, there are limited funds, so it's one thing to do the plan, and then we have to follow through with the funding.
Okay, great. How is the parish preparing for the new EPA laws on lead service lines?
We already had hired a firm a while back ago, because the first thing you need to do is you need to identify all the lead service lines. But also, as we embark on the meter installation, we've added as one of their tasks that every time they replace that meter, they have to denote, okay, do we have a lead service line going to the house? So we're going to basically almost kind of be duplicating efforts, so we make sure that we, identify all of our lead service lines. And then, once that's done, then we'll embark on the next phase, which is trying to get those all replaced.
Okay. Can you discuss your current strategies for basic maintenance of streets, from filling cracks and potholes to performing point repairs? As streets age, how much more challenging is this becoming?
Again, we have a pavement management system, and literally we went out, it's been about 5 years since we ran the streets, so we're in the process of having that updated. I can tell you, we spend about $17.4 million a year on our street network, just maintenance. About $14 million of that is actually asphalt and concrete rehabilitation. About $1.5 million for ADA compliance for our sidewalks, another $1.5 million for drainage under 24-inch, which is the responsibility of the streets department. I can tell you over the last, 4 years, we've filled 13,325 potholes. So that's just a daily thing that, we're working on every day.
I'm going to see if I can squeeze in 2 more questions. Catch basin cleaning has been a hot topic in New Orleans. What is Jefferson Parish's rate of catch basin cleaning, and are you able to meet the 5-year cycle that some view as ideal?
Yeah, that's not an issue. We have 80,000 catch basins we have to maintain, but we're cleaning them all year long, okay? Streets department, drainage department, and we have an investigation department that will clean our catch basins. So I can tell you we probably, get to, anywhere between 20 to 40,000 depending on where we are. But again, we do rely on the public, because again, if you can clean your catch basin, we need you to do it. But I can tell you, if we have a storm approaching and a hurricane, and we know it's coming in about a week, drainage, streets, they all stop what they're doing maintenance-wise. They go out and they clean catch basins for that, 5-day period. So, and we know where the worst spots are. So, we've always tried to be as proactive as we can. But again, we still need help, because with 80,000 catch basins, it's not like they don't clog again after a storm. So we'll take all the help we can get with that.
True. Okay, so last question. What are your concerns with the system heading into this hurricane season?
Well, I think we're prepared, and I think Ida showed, flood-wise, the system that was built, the levee system worked, extremely well. I'm hopeful now that Energy has upgraded a lot of their facilities, because that was our biggest issue. Were twofold. One, on the East Bank, we had about 1,000 trees go down, and when those trees go down, they pull up water lines. So all I can tell you is I feel a little better, because I don't have as many trees that can pull up water lines. Okay. But I think Energy is in a much better position, because that was the interesting thing about Ida. When you lose power for an entire week, and I have my entire sewer system dependent on power, it was very difficult. We actually had 80 tanker trucks at one time going from lift stations to drain them and bring that to the treatment plant or one of my 4 operating lift stations. So we should be in much better shape. So I'm feeling pretty good, and hopefully we won't have to use any of that.
Okay, terrific. Thank you to the audience for, you guys submitted terrific questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get more of them. It's always one of the most frustrating things about this event. That is all the time that we have for questions today. Thank you, President Lee Sheng and Mark Drews, for speaking with us today. Thank you to First Horizon Bank for its generous sponsorship of the breakfast briefings. And thanks to all of you for making the time to be with us this morning. Please remember to complete your survey. It helps us plan these events. You can use the QR code to take that survey on your phone or fill out the paper survey form at your seat and give it to a BGR staff member. A recording of today's BGR breakfast briefing will be available soon on our website, bgr.org. It will also be rebroadcast on WWNO New Orleans Public Radio on Tuesday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. We hope this event has been informative and that we will see you again at future BGR events. Watch for a new round of research reports in the coming months. Follow us on social media. Have a great day, and thanks to our presenters. We really appreciate it.
Good job, too. Oh, another one down.